If you meet an educated man today, how would you describe him? What characteristic would he have or embody? Let's start with the fact that you would consider him educated only if he is an expert in one subject. That is, he has some kind of a specialist knowledge, whatever that knowledge is. He could be a doctor or a plumber. Yes, a plumber. If he is an expert on nothing, then he cannot be considered educated. So our first condition for education is specialization. Doesn't matter what the subject might be. Now that you have your doctor, car mechanic, plumber, engineer, lawyer, or even a holder of PhD in biology in front of you, you're having a discussion with him. On the topic he's an expert in, he can talk loads. But you notice that he knows little on everything else. He can't lead a meaningful conversation outside his specialty. Can he be considered educated if he knows little to nothing outside his specialism? You will soon find him boring and maybe pity him. He certainly cannot be considered an educated man. Now we have two characteristics of an educated man. He is a specialist in one subject, but knows widely about most topics that he is able to lead an interesting conversation with you about. It can be politics, economics, psychology, history, current affairs, philosophy, religion, and so on. Now, while you're talking to him of matters that are considered a little bit thorny, he can lead a discussion without getting emotional or agitated with the fact that you might disagree with him. He is mature enough to entertain a thought without accepting it as true. If he starts yelling because you don't agree with him, can he be really considered educated? Now, here we reach another characteristic: emotional maturity. An educated man is emotionally mature, in a sense that he's able to lead a discussion without losing his composure, and certainly without demonizing his opponent by calling them names or trivializing their opinions. Let's say you ask him about a heatedly debated current issue. He can tell you exactly his opinion, where he stands, and why. His knowledge of the intricacy of history, society, and current affairs leads him to take a stand. Can you call a man educated if he stands up for nothing? Can an educated man even be neutral on matters that require attention and action? There are a lot of contemporary issues that require well-defined position. You cannot just walk around without having a position on such matters. If all his knowledge didn't lead him to know right from wrong, then what was the point of his knowledge? To reach his position, whatever that might be, he must think. An educated man is a thinker, a philosopher of the ancient type. He has mental tools to consider any issue through the prism of critical thinking. This ability to think isn't random, but a very well-defined methodology. Can you consider a man educated if he cannot think? And finally, if a man is not engaged in any form of social activism, whether by being part of a political party, organization, NGO, or just a neighborhood association, can you consider him educated? If he does not try to somehow benefit others from his education by trying to make the world a better place, what is the point of his knowledge if it doesn't benefit humanity? To summarize before we continue, an educated man is a philosopher in the ancient sense, like Socrates, Plato, Zeno, or Epicurus. He is first and foremost a thinker. He knows everything about something, specialization, and something about everything, deep general knowledge. He is emotionally mature in a sense that he can lead dialogues with those who disagree with him without getting emotional to a level where communication breaks down. He has a well-defined position on matters in life. That is, he stands up for certain issues. And finally, he's an activist. If any of these fail to materialize in a man, we can't really say he's educated. Now, what do we call the rest? If you're not educated, well, you're just schooled. The first type of schooled people are university graduates, so they are specialists. They have an opinion on most issues, but these opinions stem from television or their peers, and not from knowledge originating from a wide and deep reading. They cannot differentiate general opinions from knowledge. They hardly read books, and if they do, it's just popular books or novels. Most haven't bought a book since they've left university. They might be activists, but their activism is haphazard at best and dangerous at worst, because their activism is mostly reactionary. They only react when pushed, never with a long-term vision on why things are like this, what vision do we want to achieve in the future, and how to get to that future without creating unnecessary pain and conflict in society. Read about the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia and the 100 million victims in the Soviet Union, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, and other countries. You see this activism based on emotions, hence they are mostly emotionally immature. They attack their opponents and label them as ignorants, bigots, social warriors, leftists, alt-right, etc. The label itself doesn't matter, it's about the action of labeling. Their activism is not based on concepts because those engaged in this type of activism lack the knowledge needed for real change. Because they lack the knowledge in history, they tend to repeat the same mistakes as those before them, and hence lead to little or no change or very dangerous change. The other type of schooled men are those who don't have a university degree, as they have just finished school with just a GCSE, BTEC or A-level, and joined the labor market. These are characterized by a serious lack of reading and comprehension skills. 1 in 4 UK citizens have a reading age of 11 years old. In the US, that is 1 in 3. If they read, they generally read tabloids, which target them specifically as they're actually written to be read by 11 years old. They have a very strong national identity. As they lack any personal achievements to be proud of, they tend to be proud of being part of a nation. As it is the easiest way to feel proud, they tend to be quite nationalist, more racist, and more bigoted. They watch TV religiously. If you enter their homes, not only you notice the lack of books, but the overwhelming oppressive presence of big screen TVs that take up the center of their living rooms. Like a shrine to the gods, the TV is a focal point of home life. They tend to be not only very opinionated on everything, but so damn sure of their opinions. See the Dunning-Kruger effect. Obviously their opinions came either through TV or tabloids, so they just reflect the latest trend decided by those who own the media. They are generally content with their lives in a way that they don't seek to improve it in any way except through more consumerism by working more for money. Making more money is their sole concern so that they can consume more. Bigger houses, more expensive cars, branded clothing, bigger TV, newest gaming consoles, etc. Mindless consumerism is their most prominent characteristic. Their 30s are like their 20s, their 40s are like their 30s, and so on. They grow old but never grow up. In their old age, you see no wisdom of life experience. but just a reflection of their younger immature selves. They lack any political knowledge, which leads to them always voting against their own interest and voting for the interest of the ruling class. Brexit is an example, or 3 consecutive Tory governments. Now, why do I say these are schooled? Because, put simply, they all attended schools, but schooling had not led to them being educated individuals of society. Now, why schools don't educate? Simply put, it goes against the interest of the ruling class. Remember that their kids are not educated in state institutions. To create an educated society will lead, inevitably, to functional social activism that will change society for the better. This activism cannot not clash with the ruling class and topple it. Hence, there is actually a deliberate sabotage of the individuals to keep them from becoming educated. You school them, but never allow them to be educated. So schools are designed in a way to just create individuals who can function in the workplace, that is to create more wealth for the ruling class, but not to be able to get out of the rat maze they're stuck in. Most of them don't even know they are stuck in the rat maze because they lack the thinking skills as well as the needed knowledge to see the maze itself. If you have watched The Matrix, you'll know what I mean. Those few individuals who do become educated later in life do so despite being schooled, not because of being schooled. They are the anomalies that define the general rule. The biggest and most elaborate trick pulled over your eyes is making you believe that being schooled is being educated. Sadly, most of us are just schooled, thinking we are educated. What do schools do to you apart from hindering you from becoming educated? Next episode, how state schools sacrifice the majority for the minority. And by the way, I'm really sorry of how I sound like. I've heard myself through the podcast and I really sound horrible, so I apologize for all of you for having to listen and suffer because of my voice. I just didn't know that. I've always thought I sound more like David Attenborough, but obviously I was wrong.